Welcome back into 623 here on your Monday morning. The Dow and NASDAQ both finished on a positive note last week. Dow was up more than 700 points, NASDAQ up more than 100 for your Friday. A lot of us got a nice little bump in our bank accounts last week with the stimulus checks starting to roll in, but there are still questions out there about them. So this morning we're turning to John Rossi to clear it all up for us in the Farmers Trust Financial Report. Good to see you, John. How you been?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Not too shabby. So electronic deposits, those started to roll in last week. How about the paper ones? We're still going to be waiting on those for a bit?
Yeah, the paper checks are going to issue next after the electronic deposits are done. So the best way to really check on that is to go to irs.gov, and they have a Get My Payment button they've launched last week, where you can enter in your personal data, your personal information, and check on the status of your payment.
But obviously, when it comes to personal information, anytime that there's money involved, there's at least the threat for scammers to be out there too. And I assume that's the case again here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that Farmers takes very seriously, and of course the IRS does as well. So if you go to irs.gov, you're going to see a series of announcements on fraud alerts. And these really take the form of there's three areas really where you're looking out for fraud when these payments issue. The first one would be the IRS has stated they're not going to call or text you and ask for your personal information. So if you get a call or a text, be very wary. Best course of action to ignore, decline, and if there's an issue, report it. Second way would be what we call phishing. That's with a PH. And that's where you may be reached out. Somebody may reach out to you by way of social media or email, introduce themselves in a polite or charming way, and then try to ascertain your personal information through an ongoing conversation. So again, have to be cautious. Those come off as a little bit more friendly. And the third way is a good old-fashioned theft from a mailbox. So as these paper checks roll out, you may want to keep an eye on your actual mailbox, your Ring doorbell, etc.
So how important is it then to actually go to the IRS's website or even give them a call at this point to if you have any questions about somebody who maybe has reached out to you that is a potential scammer?
Yeah, first order of business, you can check on your payment through the IRS. If you don't have web access, you can call IRS 1-800 numbers. I suspect the wait times are fairly substantial at this point, but you can usually get through to an agent at some point as you're on the line. It is important that if you feel like you're being a victim of a scam or a crime, you can contact local law enforcement and the Attorney General's office. Ohio's AG's office has been very active throughout this whole COVID-19 crisis, and they seem to have the resources to give you guidance and address some of these issues on an ongoing basis.
There's a lot of tips that we just saw on the screen, and we'll bring those back up again. Just kind of the general advice when we're trying to avoid scammers.
Yeah, again, we're going to go through our three: ignore, decline, and report. And so if you want to rely on friends, family members, your tax professional, your lawyer, your attorney's office, that's the best advice you can get is go with what you know. If it's a stranger, if it's somebody's coming out to you, reaching out to you for this type of information, it's best to ignore.
All right. Now, one of the big questions that has popped up really from the beginning when they first announced this stimulus package, some people have their wages garnished or something, debt collectors after them. They can't touch this payment, though, can they?
That's correct. I mean, again, in Ohio has afforded an additional protection on these payments. Attorney General Yost has come out and made statements that these stimulus checks are to be used for necessities of life, and they are not to be utilized for collection and garnishment purposes. So, again, if you go to the Ohio Attorney General's office, there's a more elaborate statement with some detail on what we can do by way of collections if we're looking to collect debts, and what we can do to avoid the collection under Ohio law, which extends, again, additional protections.
All right, John, thank you as always for joining us. A little different than usual, live via Skype,
yeah.
But hey, it works out, and I like the beard.
Thank you, Steve. Same to you. Appreciate it. Stay well.
Right back at you. And if you have any questions for the fine folks at Farmers Trust Company, there's the number on your screen. We're also always looking for any potential segment ideas. If there's something that you would like to see answered by the professionals, send us an email, farmers@wfmj.com. For now, we'll send it back over to Emily with a look at the forecast. Thankfully, warming up a little better than when I was off last week.
It was
because
bad.
we saw snow.
It was so bad. We did have